Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local. All right, hello. Here we are again, everybody. Mike, David, and me, Greg, and we're talking about the week in search, social, and local commerce. Episode 31, my first haircut in about 8 months, although it doesn't look like a haircut exactly, but
for those of you listening and not watching on YouTube, you are really missing
that's
out.
Right.
Greg's hair
That's
looks
right.
fabulous.
It looks better than it did. It was really ragged, so I finally got a haircut, and here it is in all its gloriousness. Anyway, so there's as always, yeah.
And that wasn't a $10 one either.
I spent the haircut was, so I had been paying $100, and then the person that I was going to raised it to $120. So I wanted to find an alternative. And so I went to somebody that.
And how did you find that alternative?
Word of mouth. My wife went to this person. So she's charged me $40, and then I gave her a $20 tip because I paid her with a credit card. So there you go. That's the whole story.
Not even Amex has a 50% processing fee, though. That's a pretty nice tip.
Yeah. Well, it was 50% of what I was going to pay, so I figured I could be pretty generous with her.
I see.
Okay. All right, and that's the news this week. So thanks everybody for joining us. All right. Anyway, so we've got a lot of, as usual, there's a lot of interesting things to talk about. We are only going to talk about 3 things, and David, you're going to lead us off with MailChimp.
Yeah, there's a story earlier this week that Intuit is in talks to buy MailChimp for $10 billion with a B dollars, which is an eye-popping number, among other things. The Bloomberg article that I read indicate this is all sort of anonymously sourced internal, potentially internal sources to the deal, saying that MailChimp is doing $300 million annually in EBITDA, which is also a huge eye-popping number. So not typically a profit level seen in many startups. In our private Slack conversation, Greg, I was sharing that Yelp's market value is something like $2.5 billion, and they would love a $300 million EBITDA, or their investors would. So it's pretty staggering, like how much bigger. If this deal actually goes through, like how much bigger of a company MailChimp is than some of the best known names in this space. I'm obviously a huge MailChimp fan. I've used MailChimp for my own newsletter. We integrate. It was the first integration that we did with Tidings. It seems to be a very forward-looking company. They have added features faster than just about anyone in the email marketing space, to the point that it's hard to even consider them a purely email marketing platform now. You can build websites, right. You can do e-commerce, you can run social ads, you can build customer journey automations. I mean, it's a really fully featured suite, and just a really impressive, execution of their product. Their APIs are tremendously reliable, and I think to me, it's great. It's a huge validation of a couple things. Number one, small businesses are their customers. The fact that a small business SaaS company is doing so well with an exit, and in particular, a small business SaaS company that is so product led. They have a very generous freemium model. They've had a freemium model their entire existence. It's just really like encouraging to entrepreneurs who think similarly, like myself, and I think Mike, like you do as well, in terms of the value in building a product that serves a small business audience and that isn't reliant on some of the traditional harder sell strategies that so many other companies use. So that's number one. Number two, they also have a really strong agency channel. And for those of you listening, I know we have a lot of agency subscribers. I think that it's validation for agencies as a market as well, which is really cool. So I'm not sure how I feel about a company like Intuit being the acquirer, but I couldn't be happier for the MailChimp team and founders if this actually goes through.
Couple of quick.
It seems like a good product fit for Intuit in the sense that it's very complementary, more comprehensive, more sticky. But you, Greg, earlier noted, and I think David did too, that Intuit hasn't successfully leveraged their previous acquisitions.
Well, Intuit has tried multiple times to acquire add-on marketing services for its pretty massive, small business audience that uses TurboTax and what's the accounting software? QuickBooks, right? Exactly. So, I mean, for literally a decade or more, they originally acquired Step Up Commerce years ago, and that was ultimately killed after a couple of years of trying to integrate that with QuickBooks. They acquired DemandForce within the last 5 years, I think, and then ultimately spun it.
It wasn't quite that recent, I don't think.
Oh, it was longer than that?
I think it's been 7 or 8.
Okay, at any rate, they acquired DemandForce and they spun it out again, or they got rid of it. They have been for a long time looking for some complement to their core services that would, for marketing for their audience. And I don't have a lot of confidence in the company based on what I've seen. If they left MailChimp more or less intact as a standalone business that they could just refer their customers to with whatever deals or incentives, I think that's going to be the best approach rather than trying to integrate the company into their culture and org structure.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, if the Intuit folks are listening to this podcast, you should just have a sync button with sync QuickBooks customer list with your MailChimp audience and leave it at that. Don't try to do anything deeper on the integration front.
Couple of quick additional facts that I picked up before the call. I don't know how accurate they are, but I assume they're fairly accurate. As of 2019, MailChimp had something like 11 million customers and an extended audience of recipients in the billions. 4 billion was a number that I saw. And then top line revenue of something like 700 million in 2019. So really massive. And they're bootstrapped. I don't think that they took, the amount of money that they've taken, if any, is just minimal or is non-existent. They've been around for 2 decades, essentially. So this is, I agree, this is a great story. It's a really strong product, and it's a good buy for Intuit, provided that they don't mess it up as they have in the past. So, all right.
Nothing else to add. Well summarized.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.